After combing through all of Jalen Milroe's 107 snaps from this preseason, if I have one definitive conclusion, it is that his film is very messy. There are flashes of brilliance for sure, but there's also a stunning lack of consistency for the offense when he is on the field. As someone who has been a massive Jalen Milroe fan since I first watched his film back in January, I want to take a deep dive into everything that he has shown this preseason and answer the question, should Seahawks fans be concerned about Milroe? Let's jump into this exciting and chaotic tape, starting with Milroe's greatest strength, which is his athleticism. Jalen Milroe is already one of the best athletes at the quarterback position in the NFL. So much has been made of how great of a rusher Milroe is, and throughout this preseason, we have absolutely seen that. This is just inside zone read when the Seahawks are backed up near their own goal line. And they're facing this 7-man box with a 4-2 front plus the slot defender. Getting into these single high safety looks and bringing another defensive back down into the box is a great way to be aggressive against the run, and that is what the Raiders are doing here. But Milroe's athleticism breaks this defense from the Raiders. This play is extremely simple, and if you've followed football at any level, I'm sure that you've seen this a ton. The Seahawks are blocking inside zone with the backside tackle and guard working this combo block. The center and guard are also comboing up to the play side linebacker, and then the play side tackle has a base block on this edge rusher, with the tight end immediately climbing to take away that extra safety in the box. That leaves this edge rusher as the player that Milroe is going to read. The defender is just a little bit late to get into his surf technique, aptly named for this stance where it kind of looks like you're surfing, but that slight overcommitment from the defender is all that Milroe needs. He pulls the ball with some really smooth ball handling, completely fooling the defender, and then takes off towards the sideline. After picking up an excellent block from the tight end and the receiver, Milroe glides out of bounds after a gain of 27 yards. And this athleticism is not just handy or a nice tool to use to get out of a jam, but this forces defenses to play you differently. And that will help simplify things for not only Milroe, but also for Clint Kubiak as he's working to scheme things up. This athleticism brings a massive schematic advantage, and that is one of the best parts of Milroe's game. And we also see the same athleticism outside of the pocket. On this play against the Raiders, the Seahawks are running a true Shanahan staple, the bootleg flood concept. When you run it with a pocket passer, it is a good play, with the ball often finding the check down in the flat, but it does give you a chance to look downfield and then check it down. There's a reason why this play is so ubiquitous in this system, but when you run it with an incredible athlete, it's just a different caliber of play. When Milroe is starting to turn the corner on this bootleg, there are two defenders who have gotten free and are chasing him down. Usually this would force the quarterback to quickly get the ball to the check down before the defenders are able to close and get a sack. But that's just not really on the table with Milroe. He smoothly accelerates away from these defenders, and by the time that he's looking to throw, he has built up a comfortable cushion to the point where these defenders are not really factors in the play. He's able to slow down a little bit and deliver this laser to the intermediate threat. His athleticism is always going to mean that his ceiling is as high as any quarterback's. I think with all of the negativity coming his way after the Packers game, more on that later, but it's really important to acknowledge what we saw from his upside in this preseason. He can make plays that other quarterbacks can't. On this play against the Packers with immediate pressure up the middle, Milroe is able to smoothly avoid it and extend the play. Now, he was forced to throw it away, but avoiding this sack is a special play, and this is what athleticism does for you. And there's really not any doubt that Milroe can make special plays. That is not the question. But what Milroe does still need to answer is how he can develop into improving his fundamentals at the quarterback position. That means his processing, his decision-making, and most of all his accuracy. He has a lot to prove in these areas, and that is really going to be the deciding factor for how good Milroe can become. So let's talk about what we've seen from his preseason tape in this area. Accuracy is foundational to success at the quarterback position, and in my opinion, that was Jalen Milroe's top concern coming out of college. If you can't be accurate, you cannot be a successful quarterback in the NFL, and Milroe often had appalling accuracy in college. I think it was one of the biggest reasons why he fell to the third round. Now, before we jump in, when we are talking about accuracy, we are talking about the consistency of delivering an on-target throw. Ball placement, or the ability to put the ball precisely where you want, is very different. You need to have NFL caliber accuracy to be able to deliver a consistent pass and not miss open throws. It is a critical component for the floor of a quarterback, but ball placement, on the other hand, is less important. High-level ball placement can absolutely raise the ceiling of a quarterback, but it's not really a prerequisite for starting in the NFL like consistent accuracy is. So let's talk about accuracy, and I actually have some data to look at. Sports Info Solutions published an excellent article leading up to this year's draft, where they did a deep dive into the correlation between on-target throw rate in college to the NFL. Stick with me through this nerdy part because I think it's super important, and it does show some unique things about Milroe's game. Firstly, their study showed that intermediate accuracy at the NFL level correlates strongly to their metric for performance. And while this might seem obvious, that intermediate accuracy correlated much more strongly than short accuracy or deep accuracy. Intermediate accuracy is really where it's at because those are the difficult passes where you can really separate quarterbacks out. So where was Jalen Milroe out of the 11 quarterbacks that they profiled in his draft class? He was ranked dead last, with a troubling 56% on-target throw rate on his intermediate throws. In short throws and deep throws, he was relatively average for his class, but he struggled the most with the most important throws, which are those intermediate shots. In this article, they have this really interesting chart with college intermediate accuracy on this axis and NFL intermediate accuracy on this axis. It's a really fascinating chart, and I think it does a great job of showing just how much some of the league's best quarterbacks improved when they entered the NFL. There's a lot that you could break down with this, but let's get back to Milroe. Where would he fit in on this chart? Well, on this bottom axis, it only goes down to 66%. And again, Milroe had a 56% intermediate on-target rate. So he was literally off the charts in the wrong direction. Now, the other big takeaway is that on-target throw rate in college did not correlate very strongly to success in the NFL. So it's not that Jalen Milroe's poor college accuracy is the be-all end-all, but as we've seen, NFL accuracy in the intermediate part of the field is very important, so he's going to have to improve his accuracy dramatically. This isn't something that you would like to see improved. This is something that has to get better if Milroe wants a chance to succeed in the NFL. And while this is a small sample size, the early returns from these 3 preseason games are really encouraging. Even though he's only had one offseason since his last college action, he looks so much better. The baffling inaccuracies that were littered over his college tape have been mostly absent so far this preseason. Not to say that he's completely fixed all of these problems, but it looks a lot better, and that is massive for his projection going forward. I'm very encouraged from this because, again, this was my biggest concern with Milroe, and it already looks much better. Now, his processing and his decision-making is a different and much more complicated discussion. Most quarterbacks, when they come out of college, have a lack of experience at reading defenses and processing at an NFL level. But for Milroe, the difference was even more stark. He was very much a one-read and run quarterback with not a ton of tape of him reading out concepts. And yes, in this area, there is still a long way to go for Milroe. There's a ton of different plays that I could have chosen for this one, but I think that this play best exemplifies where Milroe is at right now. Here against the Raiders, the Seahawks are running a version of the Hank concept. This is a classic concept found throughout the sport and is characterized by mirrored curl flat route combinations. There are different ways to read this out, but it looks like Milroe is starting with this over the ball route, and he does make the correct choice to move on from the route. Also, to me, he makes the correct choice by working the top of the screen because there is more space up up there. But the throw that he finally makes is just a little bit late. Bobo does a good job of coming back towards the ball, but this just shows that Milroe is not quite up to speed with the NFL level. And there's just so much on his tape. Yes, Milroe did not throw any interceptions in the preseason, but I also think that he often looked timid. He was very clearly looking for the receiver to be open before he threw the ball, instead of reading out the defenses and making more anticipatory throws. And this will not work in the NFL. Quick, decisive throws are the foundation of every NFL offense, and there's a lot of improvements that we need to see in the speed of his decision making before he can execute an NFL passing attack. And I do want to make something very clear. I'm not surprised by this. This was the book on Jalen Milroe coming out of college. He was very much a one read and run quarterback. And I am encouraged by the number of times that he has attempted to make full field reads. He very much does not look like a one read and run quarterback right now, but he just looks like a bad pocket passer. And that might sound negative or harsh, but really that is the best thing that Jalen Milroe could be putting on tape right now. These are the snaps that he needs to get, and while the processing isn't there yet, I'm encouraged by the commitment that we've seen from him to be a pocket passer. And we've already really seen the benefits of that commitment. Let's check out this play against the Packers, where he does actually show off really good processing. To the top of our screen, we have a double slant concept, and I think that Milroe plays this perfectly. From the Packers, this is a fairly nondescript look on this 3rd and 16. Realistically, based on this look, it could either be cover 3 or cover 1. Those are kind of the two coverages that immediately jump out. And that matters tremendously for how this play is going to work. Once Milroe takes the snap, he starts by looking at the outside slant. If this was man coverage, then the ball would go there. The inside slant would clear out the space, and then Milroe would fit this ball underneath the corner. But the Packers are instead in zone coverage, which means that the outside slant is now running right into the slot corner. But Milroe doesn't panic. Instead, he gives a quick pump fake, resets his feet, and drives the ball into the second window to Jake Bobo, who has found space. This is a beautiful play from the quarterback position, and it's a play that I did not think we would see Milroe make in his rookie season. And speaking of plays that I didn't think we would see, we have also seen some examples of anticipation. It's not that either of these plays are remarkable, but we've certainly seen Milroe trying stuff out, and again, this was not part of his game in college. I think the fact that he's trying to play like an NFL player is very encouraging. I know this seems like a wild take, but I think that Milroe had a very good preseason. I understand that he had too many fumbles in that Green Bay game, and I'm not just going to dismiss it because Milroe did have a lot of fumbles in college. It is absolutely a concern, but I'm not going to say that he has a fumbling problem after one bad day with bad protection and a brand new center. I'm not panicking yet. But this preseason, Milroe has answered a lot of questions. I had questions about his accuracy, and it looks to be much improved and was at least good enough in this limited action. Questions had also been raised about his arm talent, and I think he's answered those as well. His velocity in college was rather sporadic due to a lot of mechanical deficiencies, and now that he's addressed those, his arm looks consistently excellent. And I also had questions about if he would be willing to hang in the pocket and give these plays a chance. And it's not that he did a great job processing, but he did try, and I think that is commendable. I know that the hype around Milroe right now is very low, but I've been encouraged by what we've seen. What we saw in that Green Bay game is a quarterback who lacks reps, but is fully committing to the process. He was trying to settle in the pocket. He was trying to make multi-step reads and navigate everything thrown at NFL quarterbacks. We saw the arm talent and the athleticism. They were there as advertised, and we also saw improvement in his accuracy and in his commitment to stick in the pocket and work on his processing. If Milroe just went out there, ran around, bailed on plays, and scrambled endlessly, he probably would have had more production in this preseason. That was what he did in college, and he's very comfortable with it. But I would have had to come on here and talk about how he doesn't seem interested in playing the quarterback position and improving on his weaknesses, and how all of those were going to hold him back. But that's just not what we've seen. He so clearly understands his weaknesses, and rather than shying away from them, he is leaning into them and challenging himself to improve. So as we wrap up, I do want to make it very clear, Milroe should not be starting anytime soon. I'm not here saying that his tape isn't tough to watch, or that I thought he played well against Green Bay. He did not. But he's making progress towards addressing his two biggest flaws, and that is awesome to see. Milroe is ahead of schedule, and that is coming from someone who was very high on him when he got drafted. I'm not going to put the cart before the horse and make some big, bold claim that Milroe is going to be a great quarterback. It is too early in the process for that. But let me tell you this, I am really excited for Jalen Milroe's future with the Seattle Seahawks. Thanks for watching, and go Hawks.